Hey everyone, welcome back to our next On the Spot interview. It is my pleasure today to be sitting down with Leah, who I've gotten to know just over the last little while, but it's always good to have a friend with you. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to hear from Leah about who she is, what she does, how she's seen God at work. Leah, thanks for joining us today. How are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just as we get going, can you give us a little bit of context? Who are you? How did we get connected? What brings you down to the city, and what are you doing these days?
I am a youth worker here in Vancouver. I got connected to Brody through something called the Prayer Initiative. And yeah, I work for a church called Urban Missionary in Vancouver. I'm a youth missionary. I'm from a small town in Alberta, so it's crazy to be here and nice to meet you guys all. And yeah, I just get to hang out. Yeah, we have a youth group here and I get to work in a girls' house that I started. And yeah.
Yeah. So lots of places to jump off with that. Why don't you tell us? Let's start before you came to Vancouver. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you as a youth, your own experiences with the church and with following Jesus, what your story is there?
Guys, being a teenager is crazy. I don't know if you've experienced that, but it's pretty wild. And so I grew up in a Christian family, born and raised. But yeah, being a teenager was super hard for me. Um, Home dynamics were a little wild. Yeah, my dad actually has Parkinson's disease. I don't know if you guys know what that is. But it's just like, it's kind of like, looks like MS, which is a little more common where your body just kind of shuts down. And so growing up, I like, yeah, was always my dad. I was struggling a lot. And then, yeah, it just kind of puts a lot of pressure on the family. And so when I was in grade 11, or a little bit before that, but when I was in grade 11, my youth pastor really took me under his wing. And because of him and how much he cared and offered, like me, a place in his family and a place in our youth group, it really changed my life because he taught me about Jesus and how Jesus reaches out to broken people. So that's kind of how I pursued youth ministry and why I'm here.
Yeah, that all was taking place while you were in Alberta.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
brought you down to the Lower Mainland?
Yeah. So when I graduated grade 12, I knew that youth ministry was what I wanted to be in. And so I went to Abbotsford and I did a program called Life Teams. It's like 10 people living in a house and learning how to do youth ministry. And so, and halfway through that year, God told one of my roommates that we were going to work together. And so that's kind of how I ended up in Vancouver. I was in White Rock after that. And then eventually um, I said yes to working in Vancouver.
Is that roommate Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, good, good. Leah and Jesse both work together at Every Nation Vancouver. Actually, tell us a little bit about that because your work is a little bit unique. When we think about working in a church, we sometimes think about, paid staff or we think about volunteering. You're in a bit of a unique position. Tell us about what it means for you to work as a missionary within the church.
It is a bit different, as Brody said. We have a youth group, but most of what I do actually is I meet with students outside of their school and we pray together. And it's been really cool. We've been praying at Killarney High School, Richmond Christian, HJ Canby, Windermere, and it's been super fun to make those connections. And so that's a huge piece of what I do. As I said earlier, we have a girls' house, and so we have four girls that are freshly graduated, and they live in a house, and we run house meetings and mentoring, and then we get to meet with pastors like Brody and just talk about how do we meet with you guys. So that's a lot of what I do.
Yeah, it's been real inspiring just getting to hear what you get to do, mostly because it's a little bit unconventional, a little bit,
Yeah.
well, it's outside the normal tradition of what we might expect for ministry. What are some big, maybe lessons that you've learned just in your time in part of the prayer initiative or working in the girls' house? What are some big things that you've taken away already?
I'd say a big thing that I've been learning is like how much faith you guys have. I think it's like incredible to like come to schools and like hear what grade 8 girls are going to teach me. And it's been like super cool just to join people in that. And I'd say another big thing is like especially with COVID and like not being able to like do normal things always, of just like how much God shows up for us when he wants his will to be done. And so, yeah, just how faithful he is. And yeah, I think that's the big thing that I'm learning.
Yeah. How you talked about how really it was in high school, middle to end of high school there that you saw a lot of God's presence as you were working, with your dad with his condition of Parkinson's and the youth pastor coming in and really showing you love. Um, how has your understanding of God been growing between high school and where you are now, just a few years out?
Probably that like God is provider.
Hmm.
I think like that's been like a huge thing. Um, I think like when you step out in faith and you do something not normal, like moving provinces and living with people who aren't your family and like bouncing around a lot, like I've just seen how God has provided for me in so many different ways, like living in White Rock and different jobs. And now this job that I'm actually doing now, I fundraise my salary. So I get to have conversations with people, and like God's provided ways for me to live here and provided this like unique job and students to meet with. And so I'd say that he's a provider is a big one.
Are there any cool stories that jump to mind right away when you think of God as provider for you personally or for someone else that you're close to?
When I was starting my fundraising, I at first like I had fundraised in the past, so I was like, oh, this is such a piece of cake. Like I know how this works. And it came to a point where I had 1 week when I was like, God, like I have 1 week's left of money and I'm not getting paid. Like, how is this going to work? And by the end of that week, I was fully fundraised in my job, and like God had blessed more than I needed.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool.
Wow. How maybe even just digging into that a little bit so that because sometimes it's hard. We talk a lot about the names of God or the roles of God, but actually seeing the practical side of God answering need. How did you manage to get that funding? What did that look like?
I,
Like
after,
one check just in the mail randomly, no
yeah,
return address, or
well, it was really cool because I like was like praying and I was like, God, like I have 1 week. And I went for a walk after that just to like, because I was like feeling all the emotions. And as I was walking back to my house, I had someone call me and be like, hey, Leah, I just moved provinces. I don't have a church that I'm tithing to. Like, can I sponsor you $300 a month?
wow.
And then like kept having people reach out to me. And I think it was like between like 7 different people. And I was like, okay, I'm fully funded.
Yeah.
And so I made some courageous asks as well. But yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. And that's the truth, right? Like as you're saying, as we walk in faith, there's so much that God is doing and wants to do and invites us into. So,
Yeah.
um, how have you been able to see God at work in the schools and the prayer initiatives that you've been a part of, just as you've been engaging on campus, which is a hard thing right now, and even for students, for you guys all being in school and you're thinking, you know, how do I live on mission for Jesus? How do I bring my life in a meaningful way to people? How have you seen or been able to be a part of students living their life on mission?
It was really cool. The other day we were at a school in Richmond, and I don't know if you guys have class bullies in your class wherever you're at, but she had a pretty big class bully. And she was praying the other day with me, and she was like, something I'm learning through the prayer initiative is that by me praying for our class bully, it actually teaches me to have mercy for him because it
Hmm.
must be hard to live life without Jesus. And so it's cool for me to watch. And like, if you guys are praying for people, I'm sure you guys maybe have witnessed your heart change towards someone. And so that's been a really cool moment.
Yeah, that is so cool to be able to see Jesus being reflected and having that transformation take place, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe a bit less on the spiritual side of things, but you're here in Vancouver. You've been around for a little while. What are some of your favorite things about this space, or how do you find time to rest and enjoy when you're not in work mode? Um, what sort of things do you like doing?
I love going for walks. If you've ever been to the Fraser River or Steveston, Granville Island, I love going for walks. I also love reading. So any good stories with a
Are you
happy
looking for
ending.
something right now?
I am. I actually, well, bringing it back to like 2016, but I was at the thrift store and I got all the Hunger Game books for free. And so I was like,
Oh,
well,
wow.
I'll read these.
Nice. Yeah. We'll stay away from the movies. They're not as good as the books, but
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
yeah, yeah.
So and good coffee.
Walking,
Yeah.
reading, and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Nat's our editor. Shout out to Nat. He is a coffee connoisseur. So what is your favorite coffee shop or favorite way to take your coffee?
Ooh, I personally love Waves
Okay.
coffee and I love chai lattes.
Chai lattes. Okay. What I
Mm.
love about Waves is that they don't call it Americanos. They call them Canadianos. You know?
Yes.
So get the maple Canadiano. Shout out to Waves. Sponsor us, please.
Yeah.
Uh,
Canadian spirit.
that's so good.
Mhm.
Well, with just a couple of minutes left, maybe some rapid fire questions. What was a piece of advice that you received as a youth that maybe you didn't take advantage of back as a youth, but has impacted you now that you are a little bit beyond?
Ooh, that's a good one. I had like an honorary mom in high school. That's what I called her. And there's a verse in Philippians that says, whatever is right, honorable, true, praiseworthy. She gave me a ruler one day and was like, Leah, when you're making decisions, measure it by these characteristics. So that was a good piece of advice I was given.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
that. And you know what? That's very timely. We are, as a senior high at least, junior high, sorry guys, but senior high is going through Philippians right now, and we're coming up on that passage. So
Uh,
stay tuned, folks.
it's a good one. Pay attention.
Maybe I'll get Leah to lend me her ruler for that talk. That's good. When it comes to friends, what was your friend dynamic like when you were a youth? Like, were
Yeah.
you a popular kid, or were you more of the quiet, nose in a book kind of kid?
Yeah, I'd say
Both
I
are
was
wonderful.
friends. I was friends with a lot of people, but I had like one close friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, being friends in high school is hard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What would be some encouragement that you might offer to our youth? I know you've never met them, but obviously you know youth culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say to encourage them just as we come to the end here?
Yeah, I'd say if you're trying to make a friend and you're in high school, I'd say be curious about the person you're trying to be friends with. Like ask questions, and then just have lots of grace for each other.
Leah, that's coming up on the end of our time here. I just want to give you the opportunity. Are there any closing statements you'd like to make, or
Oh,
anything that we talked about prior to the interview that we didn't quite get to touch on?
I think that's it.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I hope you guys have a great night. And it's been really awesome to be here with you guys.
Good stuff, guys. If you're interested in connecting with Leah, again, she works with Every Nation Vancouver. They do have a website you can find very easily if you want to get connected further, or if something that she said stood out to you and you want to learn more, or get connected. If you're at Richmond Christian, or again, which schools are you connected more with?
Richmond Christian, HJ Canby, and Killarney.
Great. So if you're at any of those schools and you want to get connected, you might be seeing Leah around. Leah, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right.